so great to be back this week. Oh my goodness, I have so much to tell you. Okay, so we went to Toronto to see Taylor Swift and Gracie Abrams, and oh my goodness, what an incredible experience. So we saw Taylor Swift a couple times, but years back. This was our first time seeing the Eras Tour. And I have to tell you, I was just absolutely blown away. First of all, Taylor Swift is just magical. Like, she's magic. She's pure magic. And those of you out there who are Swifties can relate. If you're not a Swiftie, that's fine too. But what I really admire about her is just her ability to bring positivity into this world. You know, it was like being at the show was worth it just to be surrounded by that much positivity. There is really nothing like it out there. And I have to also say her endurance is unreal. She does shows like that night after night, and she has so much energy doing them. I mean, I'm just absolutely blown away. Anyways, it was amazing. We went to Toronto. We did a little shopping. We headed over to Niagara Falls, and that was cool. We stayed overnight there. And then actually, my parents live in upstate Pennsylvania. And so driving back from Niagara to Philadelphia is actually, you know, going to be on the way. Like, so their house is pretty much on the way back. And so I called up my dad yesterday and said, hey, are you guys going to be home around 4, 5 o'clock? We'll bring some pizza over, we'll have some pizza, and we'll hang out for a bit before we head home. And they were thrilled, we were thrilled, and I was just so full. My heart is so full. So we drove to my parents, and we got to actually have dinner with them and hang out for a little bit. And you're probably wondering, how is this leading into this week's episode? And I'm going to tell you how it is. So this week's episode is all about Dear Diary. It's all about reading the words from old diaries and reading those words and not really believing that you used to say them to yourself, right? Just realizing that the evolution that has occurred for you is such a gift, and that it's so interesting because the words that I was reading in these diaries were words that I hear my clients say to me now. So they say these words about themselves and they confess them to me. And what I realized is that I had forgotten really truly how negative my talk was to myself. And I want to share that. And so I want to put out a little bit of a trigger warning, because I'm going to actually tell you and describe to you some of the readings that were in my diary that I found last night. And I'm going to tell you how I didn't actually find it. My 10-year-old daughter found my diaries. And they're all about the negative self-talk that we don't even realize. And so, you know, really trying to think about how far I've come. And I know I said that, but it's just unreal. And so again, I'm going to be talking a little bit about my journey. And this diary that came about last night was from 2000, 2001, and 2002. And I think I have told many of you, I mean, it's on a lot of my content, that when I was 22, actually 21, 22, I was almost 60 pounds heavier than I am today. And I was playing a Division I sport. I was extremely strong. I had a lot of muscle mass. And I just didn't feel like that was authentically the body I was supposed to be living in. It felt like a foreign body to me, no pun intended. It really did. And I had been working since the age of about 9 years old to lose weight. I had been on a diet since that time. So there's previous episodes that I've recorded where I talk about my 30-year self-experiment. And that's what I mean. Because, you know, if you subtract 10 years from 22, we're at about 12. My first diet was around the age of 8. So it's even longer than 30 years of the struggle that I had had. And one of the things that I can remember, if I think back now, right, I remember always being bigger than my friends, being overweight, But because I was very athletic, it's almost like I got away with it. And the reason why I think I became so attached to sports was because it was the only way that I felt confident in my body, because my body was so strong. And what's super interesting is that when I talk to my clients, I always say, until you're ready to not trade your body, you won't serve it the way it needs to be served. And I have to say that up until the age of 22, I wanted to desperately to trade my body. I wanted to trade it. And it's almost this transition period where I decided that I didn't want to trade my body for anybody's body. And instead, I wanted to optimize and make it the most authentic version of who I was supposed to be. Okay? And so when I look back, and again, I'm going to share some things. I'm going to share some really vulnerable things, because last night, 10-year-old daughter, Charlotte, goes upstairs, comes down with my mom, and has 2 journals. And she said, "Mom, I found your journals. Can I read them?" And I was like, "No." And here's the funny thing. I didn't do anything bad, right? I didn't do drugs. I didn't drink. I didn't even have boyfriends, nothing like that. So it's not that there was anything in there that I was worried about in those regards. What I was worried about was that she would read how much I disliked my body. And I don't want her at this age to know that. Now, here's the thing. She is my daughter who is a perfectionist, who has high expectations of herself, and she's the one that's more at risk of being this hard on herself. And so for her to ever know that I talk to myself that way, that would have been devastating. And so my dad actually stepped in and said, "No, those are your mom's. Those are private. Those are private." And I took them in the other room and I started looking at them and reading them. And it's so interesting because I can't even remember talking to myself like that. And so I'm going to share just a little bit about what I read. And so the first theme that came up in all of these diaries was that I had logged my food every single day. Okay, now remember, these diaries were from 2000, 2001, 2002. So 2002 was when I made the decision to change, right? But I have 3 years of just this torture where my food is logged almost every day. And my exercise that I did that day was logged. My weekly plan of how I was exercising was written out. And then I was doing all that effort. I was checking all those boxes. And there would be commentary like, and again, trigger warnings, but I'm going to use the real words that I use to talk to myself about, or how I talk to myself. Things like, "I woke up feeling so fat today. My stomach just looks so heavy, as do my thighs." Those were the kind of things I was saying to myself. Not that, "Oh wow, you earned yourself a Division I scholarship because of your thighs," right? It was really painful to read those words. Things like, "You're trying so hard and nothing's working. Why can't you just stick to your plan?" Then there were more things like, "I'm going to go on a vacation with my friend over the summer. This gives me motivation to be skinny." Yeah, I kid you not. These were words that I said to myself. I was about 20, 21 at that time. Other things like, "I'm going to a party and I'm going to stay on my plan. Even though I'm going to want to eat a piece of cake, I won't let myself." This was the kind of stuff that I read. This is the kind of stuff that is so foreign to how I treat myself now that it was so triggering for me. And that's why I wanted to for sure give a trigger warning in this podcast. But I also am sharing this with you because I don't talk to myself that way now. And I eat cake now. And if I'm going to go on vacation, I'm going to go on vacation because I deserve to go on vacation. Not so that I can be a certain weight and wear certain clothes on a vacation. And it was just so interesting. And so there was more. There was a lot more. There was a lot of negative self-talk when I would overeat. And then there was more bashing when I would say things like, "Of course you're not getting results that you want." I would have specific numbers of weights that I wanted to weigh, and I was giving myself time frames by which I would meet them. Okay? And I have to tell you that I was very emotionally dysregulated. I did not know what it meant to feel an emotion. All of the times where it looked as though I would overeat, it was all a restriction and then a willpower type of situation where then I would have a lot of negative emotion and then overeat. And I had no tools then. The only tools I had were all of my hundreds of diet books and how to actually physically lose weight, but there was no part of the emotional support for weight loss. There was no mental support for the weight loss. There was no hormonal support for the weight loss. There was no community for the weight loss. And it's one of those things that this journey was so important for me because it allows me to do the work that I do in this world now. Just looking back and reading at it was reading at it. Yeah, you're right. I was reading at it pretty much. It was just so profound. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about how did I catch myself? How did I bring myself up from that storm? And I'm sharing all of this because I want you to know that it's possible. And maybe you don't have a weight issue, or maybe, maybe it's something else. Maybe you are down in the dumps because of something else. What happened for me was this. So when I was 5, I wanted to be a doctor. And when I got into medical school, it was when I was 22. And after I found out that I had gotten into medical school, it was then that I made the decision that I was going to change. That if I were going to take care of other people, I had to take care of myself. And that really started with how I nurtured myself, right? How I could recreate or restructure or redefine the relationship with my body. How I could redefine the relationship with my food. And I actually graduated from college a half a year early. So I took a half a year off to get ready for medical school, essentially. And it was during this time that I really did a lot of soul searching. It was during this time that I had started my weight loss journey, my forever weight loss journey, my last time weight loss journey, right? Now, granted, I did gain weight during my pregnancies, and that was normal, and I returned back to, my weight loss weight after both of those pregnancies, in fact. And so what I am so proud of is that I'm here to say that anything is possible. Okay, so how did it all change? So 22, made the decision, got into med school. And again, I do think there was a lot of dopamine from that. And there was a new responsibility. And so I took on a new responsibility for myself. And what I can tell you, what shifted in those journals is that there weren't any food logs anymore. And in fact, I made the comment, I'm staying away from the scale. I literally said that, okay? This started transitioning right after I got into med school, and I made the decision. I made the decision that I authentically was going to have the career that I wanted, the career that I believe I was meant to do at that time. And I was also going to have the vessel or the vehicle to get there through it, right? And so I started really incorporating what I knew I needed to do to be healthy from a nutritional standpoint, but without rules, without so many rules. And so this is really where Mindful Macros was born. It was about me starting to really eyeball things to kind of know what I would need to eat to be in a deficit without really focusing on being in a deficit, still eating the things that I wanted. And when I took away that restriction cycle, intuitively my body wanted good things. So I'm really lucky in that regard. My body actually really craves healthy food. All my friends have always said that. You eat so healthy. My body really does crave whole foods. And so what I noticed is there was this huge burden that was released when I decided that I wasn't going to weigh myself, and I wasn't going to weigh my food, and I wasn't going to track my food, and I wasn't going to do any of those things anymore, and I wasn't going to talk to myself that way anymore. And these words were written after I found out that I got into med school. So medicine saved my life. I think one of the reasons why I'm so dedicated to medicine, now granted, I serve medicine in a different way now, but medicine actually saved my life. Okay, so what happened was, and again, there was a lot of writing between, that winter time through the spring. And again, I'd be starting medical school that summer. And I kept working out, but the workouts weren't logged anymore. And the cardio decreased. So prior, in 2000, 2001, I was doing 6 days of cardio a week, 45-minute sessions, and it got me nowhere. And I noticed that I stopped doing that because I didn't like it. What I did notice that I started doing was walking more. I loved taking just outdoor nature walks through my parents' property, and that really picked up during that springtime. Okay, more is coming. I started getting more friends during this time. But the biggest thing that happened was when I started medical school, I had lost about 45 pounds, okay? And I'm going to call it 60 pounds that I lost total. So I wasn't completely at my goal because the one thing that happened was I met my husband, Mark. And when that happened, there was even less negative self-talk. And I was really happy, and he became my best friend. And I was so happy that I did start to, I started to definitely be the one who fell in love first. And the feeling at first wasn't mutual. And that was very emotionally difficult for me. And so what had happened was about the winter of first year medical school, I had regained some weight back. And I'll tell you, this will be the last time that happened. And I'll tell you why it happened. It's because I was very emotionally dysregulated because I was feeling rejected. And I didn't know that then. So I ate myself out of it until I realized that that's not going to solve anything, and was able to stop in time to, again, salvage how far I had come. But this is when we talk about relapse, and relapse does happen. And what I decided at that point is that, Mark and I might just be friends forever, and that's okay. I have to prioritize myself. And this is all coming from these diaries, right? And so I picked it back up. And from that point on, I did wind up losing the rest of the weight that first year of med school. I can remember being on surgery rotation, and I can remember I definitely lost weight then. And so, beautiful story. I arrived at my authentic body, at the end of first year of medical school, probably. And I have to tell you, I felt like $1 million. And it was at this point where I felt confident enough to say to Mark that I can't be friends with him anymore. I told him, I said, I can't be friends with you anymore because I'm in love with you. And when you start dating people, I'm going to be crushed, and I have to protect myself. And if I hadn't arrived at where I was meant to be, and I didn't have the confidence in myself, I wouldn't have been able to stand up for myself in that way. So you see how beautiful this journey is? It's not about the weight, and it's everything about the weight, right? Because there was so many lessons through this. And so we took a 2-week break. I went back home for the rest of the summer, and then he shows up 2 weeks later and professes his undying love for me. And at that point, we were inseparable. And so he knew all along that he had to either marry me or be friends with me, because there was no in between. Sounds a little all or none, doesn't it? I just wanted to kind of highlight the really beautiful moments that stemmed from some of my darkest times where I was the most emotionally dysregulated. And so started dating, and we got through med school, and we had a blast doing it. And the rest is history. I went into neonatology. Mark got trained in child psychiatry. We had our first daughter. We had our second daughter. And when I was about 5 years in to being a full-time attending, I just had a different calling, and I knew that my journey was supposed to inspire and help people, help women in a different kind of way. And I never planned to have a business. I never planned to be a coach. I didn't plan to do all the things that I do. And I just listened to myself, as I always had. Well, thankfully, not as I had when I was talking terribly to myself. But I listened, and what happened was I took a non-clinical job, which freed up time, which allowed me to develop my passion, which allowed me to start a business in 2017. And I never looked back. And my journey is the reason why I have a business today. And when people say to me, you're not afraid to do anything, you're not afraid to try things, you're not afraid to pivot. And I believe that my journey of having so much self-doubt and then had to really be my own hero and believe in myself is the reason why I can do that. And so what I want to say is that wherever you are and whatever you're struggling with, it doesn't have to be weight, but your story is incredible. And your story is a bunch of breadcrumbs leading you to what you're supposed to know about your purpose, because you have a purpose. You have a reason why you're here. And the closer you get to that purpose, the more fulfilled you will be. And when you are living that purpose, right? I'm living my purpose in my authentic body. When I go back and look at diaries from 22 years ago, they look foreign to me. I can't even recognize that person. And yet I love that person. And it's that person that desired so much of that growth. And I will always be that person. And I've developed so many tools and I've evolved so much, right? That person is a part of me. And she taught me so many things about who I am now and my non-negotiables and how I will never talk to myself that way again, no matter what. And how much I am in love with my body, even if the woman at a conference does not think that my boobs are adequate, right? Like, there's so many beautiful things to celebrate here. Okay, I wanted to share this, and there's so much more. Today was all about just me revealing that we all have a story, we all have a journey. Mine, while it was painful in terms of not liking myself, turning it around gave me the tools that now allow me to help so many women. So thank you so much for listening to this, and I'm just so thankful that I get to do what I do every single day. I don't feel like I work because I actually feel like I am so given so many gifts and what I'm able to put out into the world based on a lot of my experience. All right, my friends, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. So much more to come on this. I'm super inspired going into 2026. So many things in store for you. So I have to tell you that part of what I talked about really fits in nicely with my Transform program that's enrolling. So Transform is the program we will be focusing on in 2025. And we have this 14-day ending emotional eating, drinking, and scrolling. I've brought in a trauma somatic coach, Brenda Winkle. My husband, Mark, he is a psychiatrist, will be dealing with some information around addiction pathways. And I have created the most incredible 14-day program where we're going to give you a new tool every day so that you can really overcome these habits that may be leading you to places you don't want to be led to. Just as I mentioned, food was that for me. That's why I'm really passionate about this program. Also, I've created a new way of prepping food. It's called batch protein prep. You essentially make 3 proteins for the week, and then out of that you make all your meals for the week, so at least 7 meals. Can feed a whole family or one person, however you want to do it. I have a vegan, vegetarian option as well. It's a brand new cookbook, including shopping lists, macros, recipe directions, and it's super simple. Now, the beautiful thing is that we're going to be running this program live December 1st through the 14th, which means if you're signed up by December 1st, you'll get to participate in the live portion of this program, which means I'm going to be doing it right alongside with you. Okay, and it's going to be awesome. We're going to be doing recipes together. And then January 6th is when Transform actually starts. So this program is actually going to be a bonus. You're not going to pay for it. We're going to include it. This along with the Transform original bonus program that has a ton of workouts to get started on and really cool trainings and whatnot. January 6th, we start Transform, and you work with me for a whole year. So this is where you really want to go all in on you. And we work on everything in Transform. It's a total mental, emotional, physical, energetic transformation. If you are a doctor, 72 CME credits. and it is going to be so incredible. I cannot wait to get started with this particular round. We are in round number 9. This is the other really special thing we did this year. So instead of having the program be 6 months, we kept the 6-month pricing, but we're giving you a whole year. So that way you get to be with us for an entire year for what I used to charge for 6 months. I just really am about giving as much value and building community this year. And I really think that this is going to be a way that we can do it. And so we have an incredible community. We have amazing women, and I would love for you to work with us this year. You can check out Transform. I'm going to give you the link. And remember, you will get the bonus program, and you will actually take it live starting December 1st, which is the perfect time, right before the holidays. And we will do that together, okay? So it makes a lot of sense to go ahead and sign up before December 1st so that you can run the program live. You can go live through it, the end emotional eating, drinking, and scrolling. Also, I didn't mention this, I have a 14-day mocktail menu. So if you're looking to give up alcohol a little bit before the holidays really hit, this is a great opportunity as well. Again, this program is very high value, and we are giving it at no cost to our Transform enrollees. So go ahead, check out Transform, and I'd love to support you this year. All right, my friends, we'll talk to you soon.